Good morning, this is Robert with Pioneer Smokehouses, and today we're going to be doing some smoked salmon in the Big Chief front load smoker. Now, I used my brine that I always rely on, which I like to call my Easter ham brine. But basically, it's a pineapple, brown sugar, honey based brine, nothing complex. And if you want the recipe, you can check out the article below in the description, and that'll take you to my website where you'll find the actual measurements. But basically, we're talking about a can of pineapple, some brown sugar, and some honey, and some salt. You heat that, mix it all up, cool it, put your salmon in it, and let it soak overnight, and then you'll end up with results. Now, when you go to prep your salmon, you want to preheat your smoker so that way by the time you're done preparing your salmon, you're ready to put it into the smoker and you can get some wood chips going right away. So I did a video of the salmon prep phase, and because it's a little long, I'm just going to show you a few highlights, and I'll just do some still images up here. But if you want to see the whole video, there's going to be a card link right here before I start running these images. There it is. We went ahead and we mixed up the pineapple juice, about 2 cups of it, and the salt and the brown sugar and the honey, and got it warmed up so that way it was hot enough to dissolve all of the salt and the sugar. Now the salt's going to dissolve before the sugar, and if you use pickling salt, it should be pretty close to dissolving at the same time. Then what we did was we added the rest of the pineapple juice to cool it down and added ice. And then once it was a little bit cooler, we tossed it in the freezer for about an hour. Now, because of the sugar and salt content, the freezing temperature is way lower than 32. I can't tell you exactly what it is, but it could be somewhere around 10 degrees, and that's going to take a long time to freeze in a standard freezer. So after an hour, it was perfect temperature to put in the salmon and toss in the fridge. I went ahead and cut the salmon into 2-inch slices and tossed it in the brine. Then every 4 hours I flopped that around so that way I could make sure that there were no pieces of salmon that didn't get evenly brined. Overnight, that works great. You do it once, come back and do it 4 more hours, do it in the morning, and wait 4 more hours. So the smoker's preheated and the salmon is ready to go in. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to prep a pan full of wood chips. I found my open bag of alder and we're ready to go. With salmon, I like to use something medium to mild. Now, alder is definitely one of my favorite for salmon, but apple works really well. If you're going to use something like hickory, you want to go really light, and I would just avoid mesquite altogether. It's just too strong of a flavor for salmon. Now, one of these pans, when heaping full, holds roughly 2 cups of wood chips. First, I'm going to layer it in there and make sure it's kind of even across the bottom. And then I'm going to heap it full just like a mountain. And that right there is about 2 cups. Now, I just like to pat it down a little bit, and you'll see, if you look real close here, you'll see there's gaps around the edges. It doesn't burn really well right around the edge. So if you heap it up like this, as it burns down, it'll burn really evenly. I'm going to go ahead and toss this in there so that way it will get going. And I don't know if you saw that, but it just barely scraped the top of the door, which is perfectly fine. So let me run in the house and grab the salmon. I'll be right back. I went ahead and grabbed my 3 trays of salmon, and I really wish I would have actually weighed the salmon so I would be able to tell you exactly how much I'm putting in today. But I like to not overfill the smoker. I really only want to use 3 trays. It's easier to manage rather than filling the thing completely up. And the same thing with like trout or whatever. If you have a few empty spaces, you can move things around a little bit and you'll get better results. Now in my other smoker, the warmest spot is kind of right here in the middle. So we're going to assume that the front load smoker is exactly the same, and we're going to put the thickest piece right in that area. The bellies are the fattest. I'll go ahead and start them at the top and then lower them down into the hottest area later during the process. So let's go ahead and open this, and we're probably getting close to starting to smoke here. Now, first thing I did is that I dropped in a tinfoil tray in here with salmon in particular, and any fish. I like to make sure that I always use that, or if you're pre-smoking pork or doing anything that's really fatty, it's just easier cleanup if you do that. You can see a tip video right here that will show you just the basics of that, but it's really simple, and you can just even throw a sheet of tinfoil on here and wrap the drip tray with it if you wanted to. Now I'm gonna go ahead and pull these trays out, and for now, I'm just gonna stack them in here. I'm not particularly worried about them. Stacking them all the way at the top will keep them clean during the process. If I wanted to be sure that they didn't get dirty, I could just pull them out. But this way, not only will they stay clean, but they'll also get more smoke flavor. So if you watch the salmon prep video, you'll see that I placed them on the trays with a grill mat underneath. And the grill mat is to keep the trays clean and also for easy cleanup. The salmon will stick to these grill mats. You can put a little bit of vegetable oil on it if you want to prevent that. I usually don't worry about it. I actually like to use it as a means for easy removal of the salmon skin once it's completely smoked. I will pull that skin right off all in one piece and then vacuum seal these and freeze them like that. I'm gonna put this one down here. Put the bellies on the top. This is a smaller grill mat, so I'll just position that exactly how I want it. This one all the way in the back, and then I'll pull it forward just a little bit so that way it's not pushing against the back and blocking any possible airflow. And then I'll go grab the last one. This tray has the thinnest pieces, so this one will probably be done before the rest. We'll go ahead and slide it in there. Push it all the way back and then pull it forward just a little bit. And if you look down here, you can see the pan is starting to smoke. Now, when you put the door back on, you want to be careful not to disturb the pan. So I typically tend to open the door just a little bit, slide it in there real carefully, and then do that. And then I make sure that the pan is all the way in. And I like to leave this a little open. So if its door is not staying open, you might use an object like, for example, this to hold it open, but I don't think it needs to be open that much. Now, for the first stage in the process, we're not going to be concerned about the temperature inside the smoker. We're only concerned about the smoke output. And we want to make sure that we got good ventilation, so this is cracked open just a little bit, and that none of these vents are blocked. But in the second stage, we're going to grab the insulation blanket. Let's see if I have that handy. So in the second stage, we're going to use this insulation blanket right here to make sure that we get the temperature that we want inside there. We are going for a temperature of 165 degrees, and that second stage, which would be about 8 hours, we want to be at that temperature to completely dry this. Now, if it doesn't completely dry out here before dark, then I'll have to take it in the house and put it in the oven. And the lowest temperature my oven goes to is 175. And we really want to avoid that temperature. It is really easy to over dry your salmon and end up with hard salmon. We're not going for jerky here. We're going for a nice soft texture of completely cured smoked salmon. So we're going to be back. For you, that's going to be 1 second. For me, that's going to be about an hour for this pan to burn all these chips up. We are back, and it's been about an hour. Let's go ahead and take a look at the pan. And it's completely burned out. Now, it's been about an hour, so at about the 45-minute mark, it ran out of wood chips and just started just barely smoldering. I'm going to dump this in the fire pit really quick. I'll be right back. I'm going to go ahead and reload it. This pan is really hot, so I'm setting it down on a metal surface. Don't set it down on plastic or on anything that's a burnable wood or anything like that. And again, there's about 2 cups in there, and then I'm just going to smash down the top a little bit. And as you can see, I didn't stuff it around the edges. I'm going to go ahead and put that in. Just barely fits in there. And then let's go ahead and open it up and take a look. Now, if you look in here, you can see the edges are starting to take on some smoke, and most of the sugar has started to melt down, which is what we want. We want that sugar to melt into the meat and spread around. Now, because the pan is nice and hot, it should start smoking in the next couple of minutes pretty good. Go ahead and close the lid here. Carefully. There we go. Now, of course, I don't recommend opening and closing the lid with the pan already in there. It's better that you close the lid and then slide the pan in and you don't play around with that. But if you're careful, you'll have no problem doing that. So this is what the plan is. I'm not going to bring you back every hour when I change the wood chip pan. But the plan is to run this and get 3 pans of wood chips in there and then take a look at it. Now, just by looking at it, I can tell whether it's smoky enough. But if you're not sure, go a little under and you'll be happier with the outcome, because if you go over, you'll end up with bitter smoked food, and nobody wants that. You can always say, well, next time I'll get it a little smokier. That's fine. But if it's over smoked, you can't take that back. So we'll be back in 1 second for you, but that'll be probably about 8 to 10 hours for me. So I'll see you then. So we're pretty close to about 4 hours on our smoke here, and we've put in 3 pans of wood chips. Now, I looked at the salmon and thought, you know what, it just doesn't look right. I think it needs a little bit more smoke. So I went ahead and loaded a 4th pan of wood chips, and we're gonna go ahead and open that up and take a look now. I'm gonna take a picture so we can pop that right up here. Now you can see that picture there, and you'll see that we have a little bit of different looks here. And we're looking for more of the stuff like this around the edges, the little darkness. That is where it's starting to dry up and the smoke is really taking hold. Now, I'm gonna go ahead and get the lid back on here as soon as I can, while we look at that picture a little bit more. Now, 2 things need to happen. We need to get a little more smoke in there, and then we really need to start the drying process. And we can put a thermometer in here and get the temperature, but I can tell you right now that from working in a coffee shop and just experience in general, that this thing is not anywhere near hot enough. So now that we're on that last pan of wood chips, let's go ahead and see if we can wrap it and not cover any of the vents. So when you buy these insulation blankets, you have to put the Velcro tabs on, and it's best if you do it with 2 people, and then you can set this in place and wrap it around the smoker. Now, you'll see here that there is a little cutout here, and that is for the door. So I like to line that cutout with the door, like that, and then I'll try to head around the back, and there's another little cutout for the power cord. Now, for right now, I'm going to leave the top just a little loose, and then in a little while I'll come back and tighten it a little bit, but I still want those vents to be a little open. And I think if I fold this over like that, that'll get a little gap. You got a little gap here, and so it's going to create a warmer area, but it won't be completely sealed. A little bit later, I'll get it a little bit tighter, and also the warmer it is, the easier it'll be to work with. So I'll check on this in about an hour after those wood chips have burned off completely, and get it really nice and tight so that way we can get more temperature. So let's go ahead and take another break. It has been 8 hours, and the sun has gone over the ridge, and we're going to start losing light pretty soon. So I thought now would be a good time to check in on it. So after we last talked, I went ahead after the smoke stopped and tightened up the thermal blanket here. And so you can see it's nice and snug. It could be a little tighter, but a little bungee cord, loose fitting with maybe a couple of blocks or even a couple of pads would be fine. There's no heat on the outside, so you could use just about anything. It's warm, but not like hot at all. So I'm gonna go ahead and open it. We're gonna take a look. 8 hours is not enough to cook most salmon to the right doneness that you're gonna want. But if it were trout or something like that, it definitely would work out. I'm gonna go ahead and pop this open and then grab a piece real quick. Oh, some of it looks really good though. This piece right here looks really nice. Let's go ahead and put that back in. I'm gonna bring this up to you so that way you can get a look at it. Hopefully it'll show up good. Now, it's got a nice color and the edges are completely done. Now, if everything was this size, we'd be done right now. But obviously the pieces in the middle are big and thick. And if you wanted to, you could either cut your pieces the long way and make them actually thinner. But the bigger pieces are going to be moister in the middle, and my fishing buddy really likes it that way. I like this kind of stuff better myself. Okay, the taste is absolutely perfect. It's just, like I said, the edge is done, but the middle's not. I'm gonna get another piece. So this time what I did was I took a little piece out of the middle. So it's not directly out of the middle, but pretty close. I'm a little bit of a snob, so I kind of like to peel the gray skin off a little bit. Just toss that to the side for now. Let's get this one up there so you can get a good look at this. That looks really good. Now in the middle, it's still pretty soft. Oh, the taste is amazing. I can taste the pineapple juice in there, and the brown sugar and honey, very mild. So none of it's really strong. It just goes so well with the fish. So it has a little bit of drying to do, but it's warm and it would be safe to eat, but it's not the consistency that we want. Something to remember is that salmon tends to have parasites in it. So even like your sushi salmon and stuff like that is typically frozen first. So when it's caught, it will be flash frozen, which will kill off all the parasites, and then by cooking it and curing it, we get rid of bacteria. This is really good. I want to open it again, and I probably will sneak another piece off, but we're going to need another 4 hours of solid cooking time, and I want to leave it in the smoker because I want to gain as much of that smoky flavor as possible. And if I wanted to, I could actually hit it with a little bit more smoke because it's nowhere near being bitter. So what we'll do is we'll do one more scene, but this scene will not be outside because, like I said, we're going to lose the light. So that'll just be a second for you, but it's going to be about 4.5 hours for me, maybe 5.
So let's just say it's after dark, and here we are with our smoked salmon.
This is the piece that I peeled a couple pieces off of earlier. And I'm going to take this and break it apart here. And we can see, I'll pull that up there, that the consistency has changed and it has firmed up a lot. That looks really good. And let's go ahead and try a bite. Now I added just a little bit more wood chips to it, and I can taste it a little bit, but it's still really mellow on the smoke level. But that is a pretty good balance, and I think that this piece here is right on the mark. So because this is kind of one of the medium-sized pieces, I'm thinking that the thicker ones are going to be a little bit on the soft side. And if I was concerned about that, I would just put them in the oven for about 30 minutes to finish drying out, but I don't think I am. I'll probably send those to my fishing buddy because he likes them a little on the softer side. And I personally like the drier ones. So let's grab one of these thin pieces and break that one open. Okay, I'm going to bring this up here. It has the right feeling. It's dry and firm. And I'm just going to grab a piece right out of the middle here. The thinner pieces will pick up more smoke flavor and dry out a little bit more. Okay, this is really successful batch. Now, if you want the recipe for this, like I mentioned early in the video, the recipe for the salmon brine is in the article on my website below. If you saw anything you like in the video, there's affiliate links below that. And also, of course, the review article is down there in the description also. If you use one of those affiliate links, I will get compensated, so I appreciate it, and it won't cost you anything. But basically, the salmon recipe, this is to die for. And the Big Chief front load smoker has performed flawlessly, just like its predecessor, which is the Big Chief top load smoker that I've been using for years and years. So this is another successful batch of smoked salmon. I'm going to put this in the fridge. Tomorrow I'm going to vacuum seal it and it'll be good to go. Maybe if I get a chance, I'll pop a picture of the vacuum sealed salmon up here. And don't forget to go back and check out some of those tip videos. Have a great day, and thanks for watching.